Hi, this is Dave Wilkinson. I'm just outside Durban in Hillscrest in South Africa at the moment. If you hear some kind of squawking, there are ibis in some trees just off to my right here. They're also known locally as hardydars because they kind of sound like they're laughing. There are also just behind me some vervet monkeys in some trees, so they may make an appearance. And I've also got just down the road some dogs, so we may also get some dog noises as well as the various other wildlife that exist here. What I want to do, I get asked a lot why I run the FEAR course, and I just want to take a couple of minutes out to explain to you why I run the FEAR course. And I do it for one reason and one reason only, largely, and that's for one moment. And it's that moment when a client or somebody who's on a course or a coaching client during a session or later on an email says this one thing: thank you, you've changed my life. And I get that a lot, and you as a coach can get that too. And what I want to do on this year's coaching summit is to share with you all of our tools and techniques so that you can do it. We're awash with work, I don't need any more work, so what I want to do is give you those tools on the summit, all of them. Now over the years I've learned to be calm, confident, composed, and to be able to take things in my stride and to be kind of self-reliant. And most importantly, I've learned how to control my emotions rather than having my emotions and fears control me. And some of this I've had to do, and years ago, you know, it hasn't always been like this, I can tell you. Years ago I used to be terrified of flying, and I never used to fly anywhere. I fly everywhere now and I love it. I used to, I went to teach training college, and I nearly bombed out. And the reason I nearly bombed out was fear. I was so anxious about doing public speaking and teaching. I was terrified about going in front of the class. And in fact, it got so bad that it made me sick, and I ended up in hospital. And with what appeared to be kidney problems. And I was admitted to hospital. I was in there for a week, and they were doing test after test after test to try and find out what was the problem. But they couldn't. And in the end, after negative result after negative result, the doctor came in to see me in my room and said, we've done all the tests, we can't find anything, so we're going to discharge you. And I got really angry, and I said, well, what do you mean you can't find anything? There's definitely something wrong, it hurts, you've pushed it, you've noticed it. And he said to me, he said, are there any changes going on in your life? And I said, well, yeah, kind of, but nothing that important. And he said, like what? He said, well, I'm doing teach training. He said, are you enjoying it? And I kind of looked at him, and I was really angry because I thought, this has got nothing to do with this, fix my problem. And I lied, and I said, no, I'm enjoying it, it's fine. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and he knew I was lying. And I kind of looked down at the floor, and it must have been for ages, and then eventually I looked up at him, and I said, to be quite frank with you, I'm completely stressed out by it, I hate it. I'm anxious whilst I'm planning, I'm anxious before I go in, I'm terrified while I'm in there, I'm terrified that they ask me a question I don't know, I'm terrified I end up looking like an idiot. You know, I don't really think, you know, it's so stressful. And the doctor went, well, there you go, I think this is stress. So what you need to do, I think, is probably give up this and go and find another job. Now I left the, sorry, I got a heart attack, just landed right above me. So I left the hospital, and I was driving home. I couldn't even face going home, I felt so low. And I thought, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around by the college and I'm going to see my tutor and have a chat with him. So I went to the college, and I went up to Charles's office, who was my tutor, and he wasn't there. And I was so dejected, and I felt like leaving him a note, but I didn't. I thought I had to do this face to face. So what I did was, as I was leaving the college, I passed the mail room, and I went in to check whether I had any mail. And sure enough, there was a letter there, and it was in Charles's handwriting. Now I was convinced that this was a "don't contact us" kind of message, "Dear John" message. And I was really low, so I put it in my pocket, I walked down to the car, I put the envelope unopened on the passenger seat and drove out of the college. And I was close to tears. And as I was on the way home, I really couldn't face going home, so I stopped at a coffee shop, and as a last thought, I just took the envelope in with me and I went into the coffee shop, had a cup of tea, and I just started people watching. And I started people watching largely because it was flight behaviour. I didn't know how to cope with what was going on. There were all these thoughts going around about me being a failure again. I'd been a failure at school. I'd only got 1 O-level. I'd failed in job. My first job was in a chicken packing factory, and the only job I could get with no qualifications really was joining the army. So, you know, at this point, my life wasn't exactly a complete success. Eventually, this envelope was just staring at me. So I opened it, and inside was a surprise, because there was a card with flowers on it, and I was really, really surprised. And I opened it, and there were 2 sets of handwriting. And the first set of handwriting I didn't recognise, and the second set I did. It was Charles's. And the first thing said, "Dear Dave, we hope you get better soon. We really miss you, and we want you to come back to the class as soon as possible. Signed, your class." And I was stunned, because actually I thought I was failing, and I was really stressed about the teaching. I then looked down at the bottom, and there was a note from Charles, and the note read, "Dave, I didn't tell you this before, but let me say it now. I've asked if I can teach with you next term. I want you to get well soon, sort yourself out, and then come back, and then we can, you know, there's a lot of hard work to do." I was absolutely stunned. It was the last thing that I was expecting. So anyway, over the years I started to gain more and more confidence. I then, years later, because I'd always wanted to go to university and never quite made it, I did a psychology degree through the Open University. I then left my job and applied to go to universities to do my masters, and I won a place at Oxford. And this was like a dream come true for me. I went to Oxford and started to look at personal development and things like that. I then won a scholarship at Oxford to do a doctorate. Because I didn't have a job, they gave me a lecturing job. So I became a lecturer at Oxford University, and I was just amazed. 3 years later, I got a job at Oxford Brookes University as a senior lecturer, and 3 years again, I was running a department at Cranfield University. Now, whilst I was at Cranfield, what happened was, just after 9/11, Cranfield were given a whole load of money to have a look at the performance of disaster managers in disaster situations. So my role was to have a look at how disaster managers performed in disaster situations. And we did 3 years of research looking at disaster managers in things like 9/11, the tsunami, Southeast Asia tsunami, and a whole series of others. And what we discovered at the bottom of this was the thing that made a really, really good disaster manager, that really worked, was the ability to be able to control their emotions and to have emotional resilience. And then what transpired was another 3 or 4 years worth of research trying to find out what it was these people were doing who were emotional resilient, the good disaster managers, and how they were doing it. And we ended up collecting a whole series of tools and techniques, most of which I now use during the FEAR course and whilst I'm coaching. And I coach around the world. I coach in places like South Africa, where I am at the moment. I coach in the Middle East, the Far East, America, Europe, you name it, I coach there. People pay me to fly around the world to go and coach them and to go and run workshops for them. Now I travel first class and I travel business class because they're paying. And you can have some of this too. So what I'm going to do on the coaching summit is I'm going to share with you all of these tools so that you can go away and do it. You're going to get all of our resources. You're going to get a pack with templates, and you can rebrand them how you want. So what I'm urging you to do is just come on the Coaches Summit in June, 27th and 28th of June. You definitely won't regret it. It's superb value for money. And there's also some opportunities to start working with us as well. We've got too much work on, and I don't really want to start employing people. I don't like that kind of relationship. I want a more grown-up relationship with people, and I certainly don't want to franchise the FEAR course. I had a look into that, and the idea of all the legal stuff just doesn't turn me on at all. So what I thought was we'd run a coaching summit, we'd share the tools, and then those people who wanted to could actually come and do some work with us. But there's loads of other opportunities as well that you can go off after on your own. The Hardy Dars are making an appearance again. So please come and meet us on the coaching summit at the end of June, and get all the tools and techniques. You won't regret it. And it starts to rain now in South Africa, which is not what I was expecting, and I think you can see the mists closing in. So I'm off now. Thank you very much. This is Dave Wilkinson, and I'll see you at the coaching summit. Take care.